In Uruguay, flooding displaced thousands of people.
Authorities evacuate hundreds of residents in state shelters. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I'm Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Philippines and Japan to hold bilateral meeting tomorrow. Philippines to boost defense industry to counter China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. North Korea sends Russia ammunition in exchange for satellite technology. United States President Joe Biden calls for humanitarian pause in Israel-Hamas war. And political and tech leaders gather at the first AI Safety Summit in the United Kingdom. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida are scheduled to address the West Philippine Sea issue during Kishida's official visit to the Philippines this week. The two leaders will discuss various aspects of cooperation, including politics, security, economics, and people-to-people relations. Additionally, they will exchange perspectives on significant regional, international, and United Nations matters affecting their respective regions and the global community. Furthermore, they are anticipated to give the green light for negotiations on a reciprocal access agreement. This agreement aims to facilitate the presence of visiting military forces, enabling both the Philippines and Japan to deploy their armed forces within each other's territories for training and other operational purposes.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, said China's claim that a Philippine vessel trespassed waters near Scarborough Shoal will only escalate tensions in the West Philippine Sea. The agency underscored that the statement released by the Chinese People's Liberation Army has no legal basis. DFA refuted that it is China that is intruding into Philippine waters. DFA emphasized that the Philippines' conduct of maritime patrols in the waters of Scarborough Shoal is a routine act of a sovereign country in its territory. National Security Advisor Eduardo Año said that Beijing has yet again exaggerated the incident, creating tensions between the two nations.
The United States Embassy in Manila has expressed concern over China's military shadowing of a Philippine Navy vessel near Scarborough Shoal, denouncing these actions as detrimental to regional peace. The embassy has called upon the Chinese government to respect the rights and freedoms of all nations as stipulated by international law. China's Southern Theater Command confirmed that it had issued warnings and imposed restrictions on a Filipino warship, the BRP Conrado Yap, as it entered waters adjacent to China's Huangyan Dao. China asserts its sovereignty over Scarborough Shoal, which it refers to as Huangyan Dao. The BRP Conrado Yap was engaged in routine patrol operations in the general vicinity of the shoal.
Solons have proposed earmarking 1 billion pesos to finance the development of the country's defense industry amid China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. Christina Guerra reports.
The senators, led by Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri, jointly filed the Self-Reliant Defense Postures, or SRDP Revitalization Act, to urge businesses to invest in the local manufacturing of defense equipment. Under the bill, 1 billion pesos worth of seed money will be allocated to kickstart the development of the country's defense industry. A new Department of National Defense Office will be created to monitor the implementation of the program, as well as related projects promoting the domestic production of military arms. Among the military equipment are essential arms that effectively counter and address chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and cyberattacks or incidents. The initiative also cited exemption from paying import duties to entice foreign companies to build factories in the Philippines. Christina Guerra reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, has officially announced the completion of the proclamation of winners in all 42,000 barangays across the nation. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia disclosed that the only remaining candidates awaiting proclamation were those who had been suspended by the Commission and those located in areas where the Electoral Board had invoked the 5-day notice rule. Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos reported that over 19,000 barangay captains and more than 17,000 youth council winners have already been proclaimed. A total of 59 winners were suspended pending the resolution of their disqualification cases. The poll body aims to address all disqualification cases by December this year. Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief General Romeo Bronner Jr. commended the generally peaceful conduct of this year's barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, said that teachers who served during the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections will not be compensated with overtime pay. COMELEC Chair George Garcia clarified only employees of a government agency are entitled to receive the said compensation. Under the Civil Service Commission and Department of Budget and Management Joint Circular No. 2 Series of 2015, overtime pay is only granted to appointed employees. Meanwhile, the Department of Education reassured teachers that those who rendered duty as Board of Election inspectors for the polls will be given medical and insurance assistance.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, reports that 2 Filipino members of Doctors Without Borders in Gaza have successfully crossed the Rafah border and are now in Egypt awaiting their next deployment. The 2 doctors will not be returning home as they will be assigned to work in other countries, but the DFA assures they are safe. They are part of the 22 Doctors Without Borders staff who left Gaza after negotiations allowed foreign passport holders and international aid workers to cross the border. This was the first time the border was open for evacuations since the start of the Israel-Hamas conflict. 134 Filipinos are still in Gaza Strip, with 115 of them still awaiting repatriation.
PAGASA said on Thursday that at least 1 to 2 tropical storms will likely enter the Philippine area of responsibility this November. Based on its climatological record, PAGASA said the cyclones may pass through Visayas, or it may also pass through the Bicol region and up to Luzon. The weather agency also said the cyclones may recurve towards the northeastern part of the Philippines before moving toward Japan or Korea. When the storms enter the Philippines, they will be named Kabayan and Liwayway, respectively. Coming up, North Korea sends Russia artillery rounds for its satellite technology. U.S. President Biden calls for a humanitarian pause in Israel-Hamas war. And Iglesia Ni Cristo further extends its humanitarian efforts in the United States and Canada. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when we return.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart. We take great pride in how much we have grown and evolved over the years. And with growth comes transformation, intentional and focused in every way. Marking a new chapter, we have injected fresh energy into our brand, with a vibrancy that equals our vision for today and tomorrow. We unify everything we stand for and our dedication to thinking forward and flourishing in how we empower both people and the planet. In a synergy of symbols, we demonstrate our commitment to providing reliable and sustainable energy, the passion to drive us to serve, the clarity of our purpose, and the harmony and growth we envision for the Filipino. Under this re-energized brand, we express our strength in our roots, our diversity, and sustainability. San Miguel Global Power, giving you the power to celebrate life.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. A magnitude 5.6 earthquake hit the waters of Hernani, eastern Samar, Philippines on Thursday. PHOX said the tremor happened at 2:50 in the afternoon. There was no threat of tsunami, but PHOX said damage and aftershocks may be expected. Meanwhile, an earthquake of magnitude 6.4 struck Indonesia's East Nusa Tenggara province. Indonesian Geological Agency said the earthquake slightly damaged houses and other buildings. It also caused panic, but authorities said there were 0 casualties. The Philippines and Indonesia sit on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a tectonic belt of active volcanoes and frequent earthquakes.
China is on heightened alert after United States and Canadian warships crossed the Taiwan Strait. This was confirmed by the U.S. Navy as USS Rafael Peralta and HMCS Ottawa conducted a routine transit via said waters. China's Eastern Theater Command issued a statement citing they conducted vigilant patrols to protect their national sovereignty. Senior Colonel Shi Yi described the latest transit as a public hype. Meanwhile, the U.S. 7th Fleet refuted that the transit had been made by international law under a corridor in the strait. Taiwan's defense ministry said they were monitoring the passage of the U.S. and Canadian shops. Taiwan averred the passage was normal under international laws.
China and the United States are set to engage in discussions on nuclear arms control, marking the first such talks since the Obama administration. These talks, scheduled for Monday, will be led by a senior U.S. State Department official and the head of the Arms Control Department at China's Foreign Ministry. During these discussions, the two nations are expected to address matters related to arms control and non-proliferation. Sources say there will be separate talks concerning maritime affairs and other political issues. As of now, the U.S. State Department and China's embassy in Washington have not provided immediate comments regarding the timing or format of these talks.
Seoul claimed that Pyongyang has provided Moscow with over 1 million artillery rounds in exchange for receiving advice on satellite technology. South Korean lawmaker Yoo Sang-bum estimated that the said munitions will keep Russian forces in Ukraine supplied for 2 months. Yoo added that Pyongyang is running its munition factories to full capacity to meet the demand for military supplies to Russia. Meanwhile, North Korea and Russia have denied the allegation. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in September in the Vostochny Cosmodrome. There, the two-nation leaders reaffirmed their bilateral ties with Russia and vowed to help North Korea build satellites.
There could be tough economic times ahead for Russians. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned his country will face increased pressure from Western sanctions. Bruce Balmeo has the details.
President Vladimir Putin says Russia must be prepared for the fact that pressure from Western sanctions will intensify. His comments come during a meeting on the state of the country's economy. He calls on officials to act on high inflation. Inflation has remained stubbornly high in Russia. The country grapples with a weaker ruble and rising military spending on the war with Ukraine. Putin says inflation directly affects the well-being of Russian families and its citizens. Last week, Russia's central bank raised its key interest rate to 15% as it warned inflation is well above the 4% target. Bruce Balmeo for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Kyiv alleges that Russia launched attacks on 118 Ukrainian towns and villages within a 24-hour span, marking the highest number in a single day this year. These assaults impacted 10 out of Ukraine's 27 regions and resulted in casualties and injuries. Many of the targeted communities were situated near the front lines in the eastern and southern regions. Ukrainian Interior Minister Igor Klimenko has issued a warning that Russia is escalating towards a potential third wave in its winter offensive. Moscow has been deploying reinforcements in an effort to encircle and capture the town of Avdiivka. Furthermore, Russia has intensified its attacks on the town of Kupiansk in the northeastern Kharkiv region and has actively sought to prevent Ukrainian forces from reclaiming territory in the vicinity of Bakhmut.
United States President Joe Biden has called for a humanitarian pause in the Israel-Hamas war. The pronouncement came after Biden's campaign speech was interrupted by a protester urging for a ceasefire. Biden said that the pause would provide time to get the prisoners out of Gaza. This was later clarified by White House officials as Biden met hostages and humanitarian aid personnel. Biden also disclosed that he was the one who convinced Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to allow aid into Gaza.
President Joe Biden thanks U.S. partners in the Middle East to help facilitate the evacuation of the first batch of American citizens from Gaza. And Marie Gonzalez reports.
President Joe Biden describes the first departure of U.S. from Gaza a result of intense and urgent American diplomacy with its partners in the region. Biden says he spent much time speaking with Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel and President Sisi of Egypt and others to make sure that to open this access for people to get out.
I want to thank our partners in the region, and particularly Qatar, who've worked so closely with us to support negotiations to facilitate the departure of these citizens. At the same time, we're continuing working to significantly step up the flow of critical humanitarian assistance into Gaza. The number of trucks entering Gaza continues to increase significantly, but we still have a long way to go. The United States is going to continue to drive humanitarian support for innocent people in Gaza who need help, and they do need help.
The U.S. president assures his administration will continue to affirm Israel's right and responsibility to defend its citizens. This, he says, in a manner consistent with international and humanitarian law.
We're going to continue to affirm that Israel has the right to and responsibility to defend its citizens from terror, and it needs to do so in a manner that is consistent with international and humanitarian law that prioritizes protection of citizens. We've all seen the devastating images from Gaza. Palestinian children crying out for lost parents, parents reasoning and writing their children's names on their hands and legs and to be identified if the worst happens.
Biden says his administration continues to work nonstop to reunite hundreds of families with those still held hostage, including small children, elderly grandparents, and American citizens. Biden says the U.S. will not give up. Anne Marie Gonzalez from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The World Health Organization is asking that medical supplies be brought into Gaza as soon as possible. This as the number of fatalities and injuries rises daily in the war-ravaged Palestinian enclave. Estela Dominique reports.
W.H.O. representative for Gaza Richard Peppercorn is calling for an urgent, accelerated access for humanitarian aid into and throughout the occupied Palestinian territory. Peppercorn says aid needed includes fuel, water, food, and medical supplies. In Al-Quds hospital, hundreds of Palestinians are sheltering inside. Meanwhile, doctors are trying to help those injured from the bombings. Peppercorn says the aid coming in is only a fraction of what the Strip needs to attend to its patients.
We immediately established a warehouse, and the team is working against all odds and risks to their security to deliver life-saving medical supplies to the hospital. The WHO supplies that came into via Rafah have been immediately distributed to 7 hospitals all over Gaza. Fortunately, these essentially needed supplies are merely a drop in the ocean of needs.
Palestinian deaths from Israel's bombing have now reportedly surpassed 8,000. Asal Dominique for Matanang Agila International, Trusted Connected, On Point.
The United States government is reportedly gearing up for a potential wave of Iranian cyberattacks in response to their support for Israel in its conflict with Hamas. These attacks could manifest as attempts to disrupt vital systems like water and electricity. In addition to this, they are likely to involve extensive disinformation campaigns and could employ proxies to conceal Iran's involvement. Several U.S. federal agencies have emphasized that they haven't received any intelligence indicating an imminent Iranian attack on critical infrastructure. However, they remain on high alert, hoping that their new defense measures will adapt and strengthen to counter threats from multiple fronts. King Charles is in Kenya for his first Commonwealth tour since his coronation. In a keynote speech, the king has acknowledged historic abuses, saying there were no excuses for British colonial violence in Kenya. To tell us more, here's Ariane Celestino.
King Charles has addressed the wrongdoings of British colonial era in Kenya. Though the king did not deliver a formal apology, he told the Kenyan people of his greatest sorrow at Britain's historic wrongs, particularly against the Mau Mau rebellion.
The wrongdoings of the past are a cause of the greatest sorrow and the deepest regret. There were abhorrent and unjustifiable acts of violence committed against Kenyans as they waged, as you said at the United Nations, a painful struggle for independence and sovereignty. And for that, there can be no excuse. In coming back to Kenya, it matters greatly to me that I should deepen my own understanding of these wrongs, and that I meet some of those whose lives and communities were so grievously affected.
In response, Kenya's President William Ruto praised King Charles's courage in acknowledging such uncomfortable truths, saying the king's readiness was a first step to deliver progress beyond tentative and equivocal half measures of past years. Kenya is the first African and Commonwealth nation visited by King Charles since his coronation last year. Political analysts billed the 4-day state visit by King Charles and Queen Camilla in Kenya as an opportunity to build modern-day ties between London and Nairobi. Kenya and Britain are close economic partners. Government data reports their two-way trade reached at around £1.2 billion over the year to the end of March 2023.
By addressing our history with honesty and openness, we can perhaps demonstrate the strength of our friendship today. And in so doing, we can, I hope, continue to build an ever closer bond for the years ahead.
King Charles said Kenya had a special meaning for his family and spoke of Queen Elizabeth II's particular affection for the country and its people. The king has previously made 3 official visits in Kenya, And this week's tour is being staged 40 years after Queen Elizabeth II's state visit in November 1983. Reporting from Portsmouth, United Kingdom, this is Arian Celestino for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Up next, Iglesia ni Cristo holds care for humanity in the United States and Canada. The United Kingdom kicks off its first AI Safety Summit. And Uruguay floods force over 2,000 people to evacuate. Please don't go away. We've got more stories from around the globe when Matanang Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by North Luzon Express Terminal.
Ako po ang inyong katuwang tungkol sa usaping ito.
Nasa puso dapat ng Pilipino to love what is Filipino.
Kaya dapat ihayag ng saloobin.
Kahit gaano kasi karami yung doktor natin, kung may bayad din, baliwala din.
Paano makakabili ang Pilipino ng bigas?
Himayin ang hinaing.
Gaano karaming pera bang kailangan mo para maging masaya ka?
Alamin ang pwedeng gawin.
So I think the lesson is, pag may fake news, i-correct ka agad ng people concerned.
Sagutin mo agad. Mag-reality check tayo.
Check yun.
Check.
Check na check.
Double check.
Check the check tayo dyan.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
The Iglesia ni Cristo, through the Felix Y. Manala Foundation, continues to further extend its humanitarian efforts as many struggle to meet their various needs. Here are the latest Care for Humanity activities in the United States and Canada. Here's Naomi De La Cruz for the report.
From natural disasters to social unrest and economic downturns, numerous calamities have greatly affected the lives of people from all over the world. As a response to the great need for help, the Church of Christ has stepped in to provide care and relief across Canada and the United States for struggling families and individuals through the Care for Humanity project. When an outreach program was held in the Great Lakes, providing care packages filled with non-perishable items to immigrants and refugees at the Bainbridge Hall in Dayton, Ohio, where attendees from the House of the People were in attendance.
I just saw a lot of things you guys are doing, working together. I was thankful to be part of this.
Even providing care to ethnic minority groups like the Hispanic community at the Fountain Center in Edinburgh, Texas.
We're very fortunate that Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ, the Manalo Foundation, is here in our community.
It shows the care that the Church of Christ brings, and that is to share what they have as a blessing for others. You know, that's why, Care for Humanity, it's a perfect slogan.
And even for teachers in public schools in Nevada and Arizona.
It shows how a church can get the whole community involved. Love, caring.
The outreach effort further expanded to school districts from across the nation, as far as Florida at the Southside Estates Elementary School in Jacksonville.
bags were packaged with care. The program was amazing. It was sincere. It was touching. It touched my heart.
To Alaska, where members banded together through the cold weather, assembling care packages and monetary donations distributed to various organizations in their community.
All of our recipients this evening.
Washington State, with hundreds of relief packages distributed to its residents, monetary donations were also given out in support of ongoing community services to strengthen and bridge relationships within the community.
You know, you're doing so much work to care for the community and care for people in need. We really appreciate all the effort that went, this is remarkable how much effort went into putting on this activity.
Stretching to California in Los Angeles County, where an estimated 1,000 care packages were given to those in attendance at the San Fernando High School auditorium.
Yeah, we just want to say thank you to the FYM Foundation and for all the great work that you guys are doing worldwide, and you guys are helping other organizations that are serving their communities and supporting them so they can continue to do the great work. So we're very thankful for that.
And in San Diego County, where the outreach was held at Montgomery Park, filled with booths providing medical checkups and care packages containing essential and non-perishable food items to local residents.
That's what community is all about, really. Reaching out to our fellow humans and supporting each other and helping each other, and just knowing that this impact is not just here, but is stretching far beyond, not just in their community, but in the world and beyond. And that's what you all are doing here. So thank you for letting us be a part of that.
From the youth to the elderly, where senior citizens in Oregon also benefited from the Care for Humanity outreach. The Care for Humanity outreach even branched out to Canada in Manitoba, where a series of Care for Humanity events were held in multiple regions, including Arborg and Winnipeg. And even as west as Alberta, where care packages were provided to residents and refugees in Edmonton.
This is good. This is when people together, when together need often to do like this event.
As many continue to face the struggles to make ends meet, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, in partnership with the Church of Christ, continues to further its humanitarian cause by alleviating economic challenges for residents by providing essential needs and hope for a better tomorrow. Naomi De La Cruz, Worldwide Lingap, special coverage.
The world's first major summit on artificial intelligence, or AI, safety opens in the United Kingdom, with political and tech leaders discussing possible responses to the society-changing technology. The two-day event at Bletchley Park, north of London, published the Bletchley Declaration, signed by 28 countries and the European Union. In it, they agreed on the urgent need to understand and collectively manage potential risks through a new joint global effort to ensure AI is developed and deployed in a safe and responsible way for the benefit of the global community. Sunak called the declaration a landmark achievement, while King Charles urged international collaboration to combat the significant risks of unchecked development. While the potential of AI raises many hopes, its development is seen as largely unchecked, particularly for medicine. The UK pledged £38 million to fund AI projects around the world, starting in Africa. Ahead of the meeting, the G7 powers agreed on a non-binding code of conduct for companies developing the most advanced AI systems. Meanwhile, reports say that London invited China's President Xi Jinping to signify its eagerness for a senior representative. China's invitation has raised eyebrows amid heightened tensions with Western nations and accusations of technological espionage.
The Bletchley Declaration
will, for the first time, hold us equally accountable and solidify that united stance. And the many international agreements and accords that have come before this summit will be strengthened by that unity.
Pakistan has begun arresting Afghans as a crackdown on illegal immigration has begun. A government order 2 months ago gave hundreds of thousands of Afghans living in Pakistan until the 1st of November to leave. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
For weeks now, they've been packing up, getting ready to leave the country they've called home, in some cases for decades. This man, his name is Saki Gul, he owned a general store. He says he's lived in Pakistan for 45 years, but that is over now. He says he doesn't know what he will do in Afghanistan. At the border, thousands of Afghan nationals have queued up, waiting to return to a country they left years ago. Islamabad says up to 1.7 million Afghans have come to the country illegally over the years. They fled neighboring Afghanistan to avoid conflicts, and more recently, the Taliban. So why are they being asked to leave now? Pakistani officials say the deportations are for security reasons. They accuse Afghan nationals of being involved in militant attacks and other crimes. Afghanistan has urged Pakistan to rethink the mass deportations. It says for now, it will house the returnees in temporary camps and try to find them jobs. But with thousands of people suddenly pouring into an already struggling country, officials worry about the impact on the economy. Then there's the human cost. For those who have to leave, life will change in a big way. Many of the freedoms they enjoyed in Pakistan will be gone. For girls like these in this classroom, it means education stops at the end of elementary school. Further education for females is not allowed in Afghanistan. Human rights activists fear that women, minorities, and journalists face grave danger when they return. Thomas I. Likeness for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Young doctors in Albania demonstrate against a law that requires them to practice in their homeland for 5 years or pay back their tuition fees. As one of Europe's poorest countries, Albania cannot compete with Germany or Italy, where many young doctors choose to move. Marjorie Quintos has more.
Since the law came into effect last month, medical students in Albania have been staging angry protests. They want it scrapped, calling it unconstitutional. They say it violates their freedom to choose where they want to work. They also say it limits their ability to develop their training abroad. The students have taken their case to court, and a ruling is expected in the coming weeks. In the past decades, more than 3,000 doctors have left the country of 2.8 million people. Albania has one of the lowest ratios of doctors in Europe, just 1.9 for every 1,000 people. Other healthcare professions face the same problem. In the last 4 years, at least 16,000 nurses and care workers have left the country for greener pastures. Marjorie Quintos for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Storm Kieran has triggered travel cancellations and flight delays in the United Kingdom. The Met Office said the storm would bring coastal gusts of 70 miles per hour to 80 miles per hour and has the potential to go for 85 miles per hour. Met Office spokesperson Ollie Clayton said Storm Kieran will bring rain throughout Thursday. He also urged people to stay away from water due to very dangerous conditions. The Met Office also issued 2 amber danger to life warnings, the second highest of alert across England and Wales.
In Uruguay, over 2,000 people are displaced from their homes due to flooding on the country's northern coast. A river has overflowed after heavy rains. Elise Daniel reports.
Flooding of the Uruguay rivers leave an estimated 2,100 displaced in 3 northern regions. Over 200 are evacuated in state shelters, while close to 1,900 are self-evacuated in the homes of relatives or friends. Uruguay at present is registering significant rainfall due to the El Niño phenomenon. Months ago, this small country of 3.5 million inhabitants suffered drinking water supply problems in its southwest region. It has been hit by the worst drought in 7 decades. Uruguay's national emergency system says the situation on the northern coast of the country remains stable and under control. Uruguay is located between Brazil and Argentina. Elise Danielle for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Bushfires in eastern Australia have destroyed more than 50 houses. Fire crews continue efforts to control the blazes in Queensland and New South Wales. Emika Roja reports.
Crews on the ground are getting air support from water bombers. In one rural town in Queensland, the community's 500 residents fled a wildfire. Hot, dry winds have fanned the flames, but the weather is starting to moderate and forecasters expect rain on the weekend. Australia is facing its most intense bushfire season since 2019 to 2020. At that time, a series of out-of-control fires destroyed large swaths of forest, killed millions of animals, and blanketed cities in noxious smoke. This year, the country has been warned that El Niño is bringing soaring temperatures and drought, increasing the risk of a severe wildfire season. In Brisbane, Australia, Emika Roja for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In central Mexico, 4 crew members died after an air ambulance crashed in Morelos State. The incident took place inside a wooded mountainous area close to the town of Tetlama, Temixco. State Department for Civil Protection reported military officials responded to the crash.
A pilot who went down in the Florida Everglades has been rescued after waiting 9 hours on the wing of his plane, which was half submerged in alligator-infested waters. The Broward Sheriff's Office said they did not immediately receive reports about the single-engine Cessna 172M crashing on the alligator-infested waters. The plane, which is believed to be based out of a Miami-Dade flight school, went down in the area of Max Fish Camp, located in southwestern Broward County. The aircraft was in a very isolated area of the Everglades, which can only be assessed by specialized assets. Units performed a hoist operation to safely remove the pilot from the aircraft and transported him to a hospital to be treated for his injuries. The National Transportation Safety Board and Federal Aviation Administration are investigating the circumstances of the crash. Coming right up, the Philippines is considering a possible TikTok ban. China successfully launches another satellite. And the Texas Rangers capture their first World Series title in 63 years. Catch the latest in business, tech, and sports. Matanang Agila International will be back.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. The United States Federal Reserve Board made no change to interest rates Wednesday, and the board chairman, Jerome Powell, has left the door open for another rate hike. Irvin Arquiza tells us more.
The last time the Fed hiked rates was back in July. Since then, they have remained steady in the 5.25% to 5.5% range. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has ruled out any rate cuts for now.
We are highly attentive to the risks that high inflation poses to both sides of our mandate, and we are strongly committed to returning inflation to our 2% objective.
Powell says they still want to bring inflation down to 2%.
And it isn't clear at this point that the conflict in the Middle East is on track to have significant economic effects. That doesn't mean it isn't incredibly important and something for people to, to take great, really important notice of. But it may or may not turn out to be something that matters for the Federal Open Market Committee as an economic body.
He adds the trouble in the Middle East is on the minds of economists. Following the Fed's decision to leave interest rates alone, the dollar gained strength. Irvin Arquiza from Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Oil and gas giant Shell has posted strong profits helped by oil prices rising again. From Europe, here's Ryan Florentino for the details.
British energy giant Shell said on Thursday net profit rose 4.5% to $7 billion in the third quarter from a year earlier, as it benefits from high oil prices. Shell is said to have delivered another quarter of strong operational and financial performance, capturing opportunities in volatile commodity markets. Their goal is stated to continue simplifying their portfolio while delivering more value with less emissions. Energy majors are benefiting from elevated oil prices, which are being fueled by concerns the Israel-Hamas conflict could widen across the crude-rich Middle East. Shell also announced a fresh buyback of shares worth $3.5 billion. Adjusted earnings in the third quarter stood at $6.2 billion, up compared with the second quarter on robust operational performance and higher oil prices and refining margins. Over the first 9 months of 2023, Shell's performance was, however, down sharply, reflecting lower oil prices year on year. Crude futures had soared at the start of 2022 following the invasion of Ukraine by major oil producer Russia. After falling somewhat, they are once more on the rise owing to fears of escalation in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Reporting from London, United Kingdom, I'm Ryan Florentino for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippines is considering a possible TikTok ban on government security employees to block the Chinese-owned app's potential for cyber espionage. Philippines has set up a task force to investigate the possibility of banning of Chinese-owned TikTok from being used by government security employees. This is to block the app's potential for cyber espionage by China, according to a National Security Council official on Wednesday. Jonathan Malaya, Assistant Director General at the NSC, was tasked to expedite the investigation as head of the task force. The order came from National Security Advisor and concurrent National Security Council Director General Eduardo Año. With more than 44 million TikTok users in the country to date, Año believes that there's a possibility that China may use it for cyber espionage to gather personal information of the subscribers. Once proven, he said the total ban of the video sharing app in the Philippines might even be possible. China successfully launched a satellite from the Taiwan Satellite Launch Center. Chinese space agency said a modified version of the Long March 6 carrier rocket carried the satellite Tianhui 5. The satellite entered its preset orbit. It will be used for geographic mapping, land resource surveys, and scientific experiments. Elon Musk warns that artificial intelligence poses a big threat to humanity. Musk is attending the International Summit on AI Safety to be held in the United Kingdom. Danica Lee tells us more.
The billionaire SpaceX, X, and Tesla CEO is among political and technology leaders at the summit in the UK. In an interview, Elon Musk says AI is one of humanity's biggest threats.
And here we are for the first time, really in human history, with something that's going to be far more intelligent than us. So it's not clear to me we can actually control such a thing, but I think we can aspire to guide it in a direction that's beneficial to humanity.
The summit is the first world's major conference to discuss possible responses to the evolving technology. It is focusing on fears about the implications of so-called frontier AI. Danica Lee for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In Major League Baseball, the Texas Rangers capture their first World Series title in their 63-year history. This after they defeated the Arizona Diamondbacks 5-0, delivering a historic title with an unbeaten road playoff run. Marcus Semion's 2 home runs, a run-scoring Mitch Garver single, and a pivotal 9th-inning Diamondback error enabled Texas to win the best-of-7 championship final 4-1. The Rangers went undefeated in 11 postseason contests away from home ballpark, capped by sweeping 3 games in Phoenix. Texas shortstop Corey Seager wins the Most Valuable Player award, becoming only the 4th player to take it twice. His last was in 2020 when he won the championships with the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Rangers, a team that lost 102 games in 2021, spent big in free agency and lured manager Bruce Bochy out of retirement.
And to end your Thursday night, we leave you with a quote from American filmmaker and philanthropist George Lucas. Everybody has talent. It's just a matter of moving around until you've discovered what it is.
This makes me smile because I remember being a kid and thinking, I don't have a talent, everybody else around me does. But it's just a matter of time that you discover that talent. And most of the time it's something natural to you anyway that you don't consider a talent. It's just a part of who you are.
So true. And in as much as a lot of people see the pandemic to be something really, really bad, I think there is a good thing to get out of that. And that's the fact that we were able to unearth a lot of new talents that we never knew about ourselves.
Yes, you discovered a lot about yourselves. Do you have an example? What did you learn about yourself?
Lots.
Lots.
I already have a lot of talents.
I know, you're perfect.
But things like hair cutting.
Oh, yeah.
See?
Oh, yes.
Hair cutting for my kids.
Yes.
You know, things like that. Baking.
Yes.
I had never tried baking before, and then I was able to during the pandemic.
Oh, that's something I'm looking forward to. Maybe you can bring a couple cupcakes or cookies.
For inspiration and motivation.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International as your trusted news source, keeping you connected to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.